Hi everybody. So I'm an interaction designer, and that means that, well, I'll explain that in a little bit. My project today is called Street Talk, and it's a project to make walking better. I'm a founding partner at Behavior, an interaction design firm, and I'm also a teacher at the SVA Interaction Design program. And I'm also a pedestrian. I'm a cyclist and a runner, but I think I walk probably more than the average New Yorker. I live in a neighborhood that's kind of inaccessible. And and also my Twitter name's @ChrisFahey, and you can talk to me that way if you want. In fact, I want to talk about Talking to Me. Talk to Me is a show that's up at the MoMA right now, curated by Paola Antonelli, and this is a show all about how objects and the things that we're designing these days as designers are getting a little smarter. They're starting to respond to human beings in ways that kind of resemble the way humans respond to each other. And so when I got the problem that was given to me, I was already in this frame of mind, and I've been in this frame of mind for a while, thinking about how machines can interact with us, machines and systems of all sorts can interact with us in ways that are smart and kind of resemble human intelligence. The challenge I was given was as follows. New York pedestrians want to reclaim their city. What is the best way to mediate the impact of cars on New York streets? And now I wouldn't know what the best way is, I wouldn't pretend to do that, but I do want to come up and I don't want to come up here and propose an urban planning solution, because I'm not an urban planner. I would just be, you could sue me for civil engineering malpractice if I tried that. So I do digital solutions, I do interaction design solutions. So I immediately thought of this problem as some kind of way of just making walking better, not something about necessarily improving the infrastructure of the city. I thought about the kind of the mental state of what walking is all about. I question the idea that making the city better for walkers necessarily means changing the infrastructure, or whether it even means impacting the world of cars at all. And my research for this kind of consisted of just me walking around and thinking about, well, what happens in my head while walking? What is interesting about walking? How can I make this experience better in the city? Looking around, seeing what the city has to offer. And I find myself constantly asking questions when walking around in the city. Like, what neighborhood is this? What kind of people live here? What's the deal with that building over there? What is that thing? Who's lived here before? What's the history here? Could I live here? Was this neighborhood safe? There's all kinds of questions people ask themselves while walking around in a city. And knowing the answers to those kind of questions would give us a better connection to our city. And they're kind of idle curiosities, they seem, but the more you have them, the more you're able to answer them, the more connected you can feel with your city, and the more connected you feel with just the act of walking. And I thought about how these answers are actually all around us. They're actually in the city itself in the form of data. This is a Google map of this area here, and you'll see that Google has this area and the whole city and the whole world mapped out to an incredible level of detail with all kinds of data made available to us. And we're awash in data. We have constant on-demand access to location-aware services. At any moment, you can walk down the street, and if you have a portable computer of this kind, you can find out how good the restaurant is that you're in front of. You can learn the history of the Eldridge Street Synagogue. You can learn all kinds of things just on demand if you want them at that time. But I was thinking about what happens if you don't necessarily want to stop walking and look something up on your computer, or go home and look something up. Is there a way that we can have the city actually not wait for you to ask it about the data, but actually have it proactively tell you what's going on? If the streets didn't wait for you to ask, if the streets just told their stories to you. And I think at the very beginning, Amy mentioned how architecture tells stories, and I thought that was really interesting, because my whole talk's about how the whole city tells stories. Now, I'm not suggesting some kind of augmented reality situation where everywhere you look there's just data flying in your face through some kind of visualization. Augmented reality is this technology where the things that you see are visually overlaid with incredible amounts of additional data that you have to kind of claw through to get back to the real reality. And the city around us is pretty stimulating already. To paraphrase Kevin Slavin, who did a really great talk about augmented reality last year, New York City is plenty interesting enough in the real reality of it. So what if the streets could just, instead of visually changing what we're seeing, instead of changing the infrastructure physically, instead of changing what we see, what if we change what we heard, the stories that went through our heads when we're able to walk around in the city? And just a quick talk about visualization. This is the latest issue of Good, all about information visualization. And I thought about what kind of non-visual ways are there to understand the stories and data and information that is all around us and available in the city. And what if this data could tell us a story, not metaphorically, but literally? Now, a word about interaction design. Interaction design is about creating systems that are smart, that think. Not just clever design, but systems that are actually thinking behind the scenes. That systems that exhibit problem solving, even creativity. A lot of what we do is creating systems that seem to think behind the scenes. And most people think of interaction design as being about interface design, designing the buttons and menus and forms and stuff that you see on software. But a lot of what we do is deeper than that, designing clever systems that think. So when you go to Amazon, it recommends, or Netflix recommends a book to you or a movie to watch, or your junk email blocker recognizes hopefully most of the time, the real email from the spam. Or something like this. This is a sports bulletin from the third quarter of this Saturday's college football game between the Nebraska Cornhuskers and the Washington Huskies. Number 10, Nebraska ran for 131 yards in the third quarter, and the Cornhuskers now lead 37-17. Nebraska has erupted for 20 straight points. The Cornhuskers expanded their lead to 40-17 thanks to a 10-play, 56-yard drive that ended when Rex Burkhead turned a handoff into a 1-yard touchdown, blah, blah, blah. Here's the thing that's interesting about this. All of this was written by a computer. It's technology developed by a company in Chicago called Narrative Science. And these guys basically are looking at the kind of data that comes out of games, out of sports games, and realizing you can take that data and turn it into narrative just by looking at what happened in the game. So real sports data is actually really detailed, and there's a lot of sort of information that can be parsed through to actually create a narrative out of it. So for example, if a team scores 20 points in a row unanswered by the competitor, by the other team, you can describe it as an eruption, as they did in that one. Or if a number one team gets beaten by a really crummy team, the narrative can call it an upset victory. So there's all kinds of ways you can take numerical data and turn it into prose, turn it into words that are meaningful to people. And also just factual data about what happened here can be translated into words. So I say that there are stories like this, the way stories are embedded in the numbers and statistics and news about sports. That same kind of story can be extracted from the data and information that's embedded in the city more and more as we have digital services and digital histories that are being created and added to every day. So that's where Street Talk comes in. Street Talk is my proposal for this challenge. So the experience I imagine here is something like this. And so as you're walking around the city, you're walking around your neighborhood, maybe on your way to work, maybe just sort of going to a neighborhood you haven't been to before, and you'll sort of get a beep or a buzz on your phone, and you can answer it just like answering a text message of some kind, and then you'll get a story, a short story, sort of unprompted, unsolicited, a very, very short story, maybe a sentence, maybe a couple sentences, more than just interesting factoids, but not quite a novel. And they're dynamically generated. They're completely generated by computers, much like this other software for the games, for the sports games. And there's an infinite number of them. So anywhere you go, there can be stories being generated and told. So here's sort of a sample. Right?
You're less than a block away from where the first jazz recording was made.
Can you hear that? Oh. Oh, okay, that's a good idea. It's in the speaker now. Okay, do it again.
You're less than a block away from where the first jazz recording was made.
There you go. Or...
Be careful crossing Delancey Street. It's one of the most
so we can track where you've been for a while.
Here near ABC United Trading Corp. at 31 Canal Street. In 1927, this was the Lowe's Canal Street Theater.
These are all factual kind of pieces of information that have to do with where you are, where you're coming from, whether you've been there before, and based on histories and map information that are readily available and are being created all the time. Now, this is the kind of thing I envision. This is something that users can customize. You can sort of decide what's the length of a story that you like to hear. I like to hear short stories. I like to hear long stories. You can decide on the frequency. So I want to hear just one a day. Interrupt me, send me a message, or just open the fire hose and just tell me stuff all day long. I'll put the headphones on and just keep pouring information to me as I'm walking around the city or running around the city. You can also choose the subject matter. Maybe you're really interested in real estate. Maybe you're really interested in crime statistics or demographics. You want to know, I'm in a dangerous neighborhood, in a not so dangerous neighborhood. Maybe you want to hear news about the future, about things that are going on in the neighborhood that might affect your view.
A high-rise office building is going to go up on this block beginning in September.
So what kind of data would we use to generate these kinds of stories? How can we get these kinds of stories? Well, computer, there you go. Well, I thought about when you're walking around in an urban area, you're really passing through a lot of different kinds of smaller areas that have data associated with them. You're going through all these transitions from one neighborhood to another. Not just passing by points, but you're passing through neighborhoods. And you know, at any given time, you're in Manhattan maybe, you're in Chinatown on Eldridge Street, but you're also in various kinds of sub-neighborhoods. You're in, you know, this is zip code 10012. You could be in various congressional districts, I think these are. No, those are zip codes. No, these are forget these. Some of these are all different things. Zip codes, police districts, fire districts, congressional districts, state assembly districts. All of these different zones have these different definitions, and every time you're moving, you're crossing some line from some neighborhood to another and sort of entering a new world of information that can be generated for you. And or maybe you're entering a historic district, and there's a very limited number of those. There's definitely stories to be told in those. And there's more that we can do here. This is a project done by a Boston design firm called Paste in Place that I thought was really awesome. This is a sort of typical map of House districts, Congress districts. Each blue box, each blue zone is a different House district. But they thought about, like, well, what if we define the city in a different way? What if we divided the city up into 6,000-person districts, roughly corresponding to the number of people that it's a good-sized population to run a town hall? How many town halls would you have in a world like that? And they went a little crazy and came up with this one, which is every one of these purple dots is a Dunkin' Donuts. And so what happens if you were to define the nature of your community by how far away you are from the next Dunkin' Donuts? And each zone is, you know, I live in Dunkin' Donuts branch number 437, and you're always crossing from one Dunkin' Donuts branch to another. This is really inspiring to me because you can apply this logic to other kind of city situations. Like, so, like, you know, in the Flatiron district is defined by the Flatiron building, and so we can find these sort of landmarks around the city that create new districts for us to think about the city in new ways. You can tell users you're entering a new kind of area that they hadn't thought of as being an area. So in my research for this, I spoke to Victoria, and she mentioned that Plan NYC has a goal to have an open space, a park, within a 10-minute walk of every New Yorker. So at any given time, you're crossing from one park zone to another park zone. So, you know, you're always kind of moving around. Like, we're right near a couple parks right now. Right?
You've left the Columbus Park area. The nearest park to you now is Sarah Roosevelt Park, on the corner of Canal and Forsyth Street.
You're always in the region of a park, and you're always learning about where the next park is in this kind of perambulation. We could also base this on colleges, subway stops, hospitals, places of worship, farmers markets. You know, you always kind of want to know, like, how is the city punctuated by these great landmarks? And the idea is that the city's talking to you, and you're listening to the city. When you cross a border from one region to another, you're exploring a new kind of story. And I'm not thinking about this as like Minority Report, where you're constantly being exposed to ads based on where you are. I'm thinking about the city as being a personality, a voice talking to you. This is a scene from Wings of Desire, if you remember this movie, where angels are walking through Berlin and hearing the thoughts and intimate feelings of the people they're walking by. And I thought that would be a great experience for us to have, not just for people around us, but the buildings, the history, the culture of our city. I think this would work. It'd be a really interesting project to build because it would be a total collaboration between data analysts, writers, historians, city planners, all kind of coming together to kind of create these story fragments and figure out how to take data and turn it into stories in a flexible way. Start off with like 500 stories and maybe seed it over time as more and more data becomes available, create templates for these stories to be made. And to go back to Kevin Slavin's augmented reality talk, he says, he advises us not to invent new things to look at, but rather new ways of looking at the things, or in my case, listening to the world around us. And street talk is like, I like to think of it like a utility, like electricity or water or gas. It's a constant sort of murmur or chatter that's happening in the city that you can just tap into and listen anytime you want to learn more about the city, become better connected, and sort of explore your city through walking and listening. That's it. Thank you.